dance in the morning. I'ma 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 dance in the morning. I'm just a soul. And the time will come when my soul will leave my body. But I hope that, I can just keep creating while I'm still here. And keep sharing while I'm still here. 'Cause that's really what makes me happy. And if I can bring some kind of light into people's lives through the music, then I'm happy. Then I feel like I've done my job. And I know that it sounds so simple and so cliche, but it's the truth. What if you go, and it never stops raining? What if you go, and it all falls down?
Hey Jordan.
TM, how you guys doing?
What? We're doing great. Just listening to some tracks, getting everything done. Retweet the space out. Let's get everyone on. I need to figure out Matia. Let's get this off. I gotta figure out my setup for this device over here. Right, it's been sitting here for 2 weeks, and I'm still battling to find the right cables and way to plug it in. But this basically lets us do a space at the same time. The next time Jordan will speak, or will be one of those hybrid spaces and live stream. But for now, it's just going to be video, old school style. And we thank Mati for joining us. A man who rallies is a man who you want to keep close. Mati is dealing with some illness, but he doesn't back down. He shows up. So yeah, anyone out there, if you're feeling sick today, let Mati be your inspiration to show up. Just show up. You don't have to perform. You don't have to do anything. Just show up. You know what I'm saying?
So Matty's like my current portfolio, basically.
Yeah.
Still showing up, still trying.
Yeah, I mean, the portfolio. We'll get into all the runes and ordinal stuff, because Mati also was kind of involved in that as well, and and we definitely have to analyze that, because it's also part of your stack with Beyond. And honestly, this is the first time. I wouldn't say I'm bullish about runes and ordinals again, but this is the first time where there's a little sliver, a little bud, a little ember of a hope, of desire, of some risk coming back into the system, because runes obviously, and we'll get into it as well. You guys have a lot of experience with that, and you've been responsible at Darewise for quite a few catalysts in the space. Hopefully this is another catalyst, and I think we need to kind of analyze, as runes, as Bitcoin enjoyers, as fans of the Orange Chain, what the hell happened? How did something so hype disappear off the map? Was it over-promising? Was it too many standards, too many token standards, and how do we get it back there? But first, we say hello to Mati, we say hello to Green Candles, we say hello to a little relief pump. Is it sustainable? Is it something short-lived? I mean, I'm quite bullish to see that we pumped yesterday on a Monday, right? Pump is a strong word. It wasn't really a pump, more like a slight, a slight lifting of the knee, but it was on a Monday, so it wasn't one of those infamous Sunday pumps. We also saw funding rates flipping negative, which is typically a sign of bottoms, as people turn too bearish and start to short Bitcoin so much that they try. The compliance and retention, Mati, is that what we're looking at? Are you putting us to sleep?
My trading license, we have annual requirement to keep on top of that kind of stuff, so taking some courses from the EIMF. The pump that you're talking about over the weekend, it's barely registered. I mean, I did try and catch the bottom. My new strategy is, wait for some momentum, and then set your stop loss in slight profits and see if you can catch the bottom that way. But no, things are very much looking downward on the chart still. But as far as Bitcoin is concerned, we do have that giant wick. One of my former colleagues would call that a penis, and that's kind of where you look for bottomings. So that means like the market tested lower, but then those lower prices were rejected by the market. And so it's still way early to be calling a bottom on this. And what you'd want to look for is the higher highs. Obviously, that hump right around 93, a break above 93, traders will start to assume higher highs and we go higher. But until then, no, I don't think I'm ready to call the bottom. The bottom may be in, but I'm not ready to call it.
Yeah, that's a fair assumption. I think. Look, I was expecting when we were at like 86 and all that. I was expecting a flush. I think seeing the flush down is a bullish sign. That wick that you mentioned. I also, I think if you open up the poly market for rate cuts in December, those are also about 50% again. So markets pricing in some lax monetary policy as well. So I think all that is coming to plan. We were just oversold, man. Like we were just. I think what happened was, October 10th was a big, kind of shook up the foundations of the market, and B, I think 126k was a price that sort of took into account all the talk of Bitcoin coming to the US and strategic reserve actually happening by the end of the year. Like I think when the market rallied to 120, it was with the assumption that the US is going to do something more substantial with regards to becoming a Bitcoin nation, to adopting Bitcoin, and that just never happened. So I think it's a combination of rethinking, recalibrating expectations, plus obviously a more loose monetary policy that's going to drive us back up.
I'm going to absolutely agree with you there. And I mean, looking at the weekly chart, it doesn't look like much of a slide, but actually something that is now testing the lows. And yeah, it was funny to see America adopt a strategic Bitcoin reserve, but then not actually buy any Bitcoin to put in that strategic Bitcoin reserve. So, yeah, a bit of a full gas and neutral situation over there.
Yeah, definitely, Jordan. What about where do you fit in this whole thing? We're yapping and jabbing a lot, but are we talking a whole lot of shit, or do we make some sense? Like, what's your take on the matter?
I'm not gonna pretend to be a better trader than you guys, but it was kind of interesting. Last night I was out with a friend that's really good in trading, just generally speaking, and he actually told me, and I don't know how true this is, but that Michael Burry, who, for those that watched the movie The Big Short, essentially he's the kind of guy in the movie who's like the genius that predicted the 2008 crisis, and that just saw all the movements. And apparently, I don't know how true this is, but like about a week and a half ago, he liquidated his fund. He basically told his investors, like, I'm out for now. So obviously, it doesn't mean that he holds all the truth, but he's predicted things before. And so it's kind of interesting when you talk to people more for traditional finance. I don't know how true it is or not, but they say that next year,
Bitcoin the entire way up.
Yeah. So, but it seems like next year is going to be a bit of
that could be one of the reasons he liquidated his fund, to be honest.
Probably.
Maybe. Had he allocated 5% to Bitcoin, he'd have been just fine right now.
Yeah, no, that's very true. So, but it just shows that I think people are worried for next year, more at a macro level. I mean, I think when it comes to Bitcoin, it's just, we always say this, you got to play the long game. So I've stopped trying to like trade Bitcoin that much, in the sense that I just try to buy and hold. You can trade altcoins, you can short, leverage, have fun. But with Bitcoin, it's just play the long game, look for good entries. Of course, everyone has a different definition of good entries. You could argue right now it's a good entry, but you could also be patient and wait a little bit to see how early next year is going to play out, I think that's more my play. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, 126 was a good entry too.
Yeah, over time, everything's a good entry. I want to correct what you said. I'm an absolute junk trader, Jordan. I'm still trying to figure out my systems. Right now, I'm trying to just kind of, I'm not touching, like, no leverage is my rule number one, because it's just like, I've got wrecked too much. So I'm trying to just kind of pick coins that I think will kind of DCA winners, and hold that. But I'm not trading at all, like, heavily. Like, it's a lot more buy and hold. But for us, I think we do these analysis more. I think there are traders watching. Mati's a trader, but also we'll talk about, like, we'll start to get into the beyond stuff as well. But the market, like, we all three of us make our living in this space. We make our bread from crypto, and there's no market, I think, in the world that is as price sensitive as crypto is. Like, if you're working in a cybersecurity company or a SaaS company like Web2, like, sure, I remember in Israel in 2021 there was a massive VC boom, and companies were hiring and going to Thailand and throwing these massive rages with Omer Adam. But like on the basic level, cyber security companies, they don't, you don't see them cutting their marketing budget by 90% because the S&P 500 went down for a week, Whereas crypto companies, 1 second your KOL campaign, 100,000 kilometers an hour, you're spending money, you're making noise. The next second is like, no, we need to, just, keep things in reserve, count our acorns, get ready for the winter. So it's very cyclical. So that's why we do these analysis. We want to set the tone, kind of get the feel, and I want to maybe start with you guys with that, because you launching, mainnet soon, TGE, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, you're probably hoping for better market conditions, but what's kind of your thinking, you personally and in the team around these kind of market conditions and launching something brand new in these times?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess before I answer directly in the case of Beyond, I think personally there's always opportunities in crypto, and that's what makes it beautiful and scary at the same time. And like, if you look at yesterday, we had like literally Monad. You had if you're on Base, Jesse, the head of Base, launched his token the other day, and he like announced it like publicly. So it's just like there's always opportunities to play the game for traders, where I think you just have to be smarter today. It doesn't matter what the market conditions are, but you can't really be naive like in 2021, where you could arrive late and still make a lot of money. I think these days you actually have to have the right tools. You need to look at the analytics. You need to maybe have a sniping tool if you're going to buy an altcoin, etc. Of course, in the case of Bitcoin, it's simpler because you just buy it and you hold, right? But yeah, going back to your question, in the case of Beyond, obviously the market conditions are not ideal, but they're far from being bad. I mean, we keep talking about the price of Bitcoin, but last year, 2 years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, like, it just keeps going up, playing the long game. And so in the case of Beyond, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because our goal is not to overly hype and just, be like day one and has to work, in the sense that we're going to keep building and building. And so it's almost better for things to be a bit quiet. And so for people to see it works, it's exciting, and it's going to keep growing, versus the opposite. And projects usually do that, but then 2 months later, the valuation's like minus 80%. And then you're just like, how come, when they raise like, 50 million?
For those of us who don't know what Beyond is, maybe give us a 1 or 2 sentence intro to what you're building there.
Absolutely. I mean, so if you're already in crypto, I could say it's layer 0 for Bitcoin. If you're not in crypto at all and you have no clue what layer 0 is, one analogy could be, imagine every blockchain is kind of like a country. You could have Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum. And so every country has, a different language, right? And so you need a different translator for every country. But Beyond is similar to layer 0, is coming in as kind of a universal translator. So essentially you're allowing different blockchains, or L1s and L2s, to communicate with one another. And what makes Beyond unique, similar to what layer 0 did with EVM, is that we're trying to be this translator for Bitcoin. So essentially, this would mean, if we're able to do it, that we have this bridge where you can have all these protocols, all these runes, all these BRCs, meta protocols, tokens, and they can all communicate with one another and communicate with EVM. So that's what Beyond's trying to do essentially. Layer 0 for Bitcoin, and just try to limit the fragmentation of Bitcoin and try to make it more accessible to the rest of the Bitcoin ecosystem and EVM. At a high level, that's what it is.
Yeah, awesome. So Bitcoin essentially, like, let's set the tone a little bit. Bitcoin is almost a $2 trillion asset, but it's lots of it is stuck. I just actually wrote a bull post about strategy because Michael Saylor is getting a lot of hate on LinkedIn, so I had to defend him. But even Michael Saylor, he's buying 650k Bitcoin. Saylor has 650k Bitcoin, and there's only around 300k in DeFi wrapped on Ethereum, on Binance Chain, and also, so Michael Saylor's strategy, one company has more Bitcoin just sitting there parked than all of DeFi. Now, I believe the end game with strategy, like Bitcoin, like my big problem that I'm sure always grapple with is, like, money is supposed to move, right? Money is supposed to be, yes, you store a lot of it, over time. You don't tap into a lot of it, right? So, like, if you're a billionaire, you have $1 billion in the bank or in asset, you're not touching, more than 1% or 10 basis points of that to live, to buy, to exchange, or whatever. But part of that you need to touch. You need to actually access. Money needs to flow. There needs to be an economy around that. And Bitcoin, especially the way the Maxis see it, it's very much like a dumb pet rock to just sit in a treasury and just collect dust. So, my question is always, how can you have Bitcoin as an asset that is the hardest money known to man, that has 21 million and proof of work and all the various character traits that make it such a hard money, and allow it to also be a bedrock for the economy? So that's, I think, the scene. That's kind of what Beyond is doing. But Beyond, you guys are pretty recent to Beyond. Maybe you can give us a little bit of background about the team, about how you guys came to Beyond, because I met Jordan a while back. I don't think we haven't met face to face yet, but please God, at the next puppet party somewhere around the world. I mean, a lot of them have gone quiet. Like, some of them sold for half a Bitcoin and left and retired somewhere chilled, and some of them are quiet, but we're still active. We're still around.
Never sold. Maybe it was a mistake, but at the same time, I think when you love the community and you just like the vibe, you shouldn't see it as a loss, right? But if someone sold, it's understandable. But yeah, I guess in my case, I'm only one part of the wheel of Beyond. We have the tech team, front end, back end. We have graphic team. We have the co-founders, Magnus and Nate. I'm on the BD side, kind of leading growth, but I'm not even the only one there. So we've been building for a while. Our CTO, was auditing at Ethereum Foundation, Solana Foundation, so he has a wealth of experience there. Magnus and Nate have been in the space, I think, since 7-8 years. I don't want to be wrong about the year. Myself, end of 2018, got into space, but let's be honest, 2021 was the real massive catalyst where I really went full time. Before then, I was more like dabbling, little, playing there and there. And yeah, I think it's just most of the Beyond team just fell in love with the Bitcoin ecosystem and just its potential, because as you mentioned, you have 2 trillion, and then suddenly you start seeing ordinals and runes and BRCs and all these things that are possible, and you're like, wait, that's actually possible on Bitcoin. Like, the logical way of thinking is everyone knows Bitcoin, everyone wants to own Bitcoin, or most people want. Why wouldn't this work? And so I think that's the whole thesis of not just Beyond, but all the builders on Bitcoin. And I don't want to talk for them, but it's like, how can there not be potential in the Bitcoin ecosystem when there's so much potential in Bitcoin? So that's kind of the logic, I think, of a lot of builders in this space.
Yeah, I mean, that's what drew me to Bitcoin, essentially, at the beginning. Like, I mean, I discovered this whole thing in late 2023. So, like, just kind of a bit of a background, like, ordinals were around already in 2023. Like earlier in the year, there was a few collections that popped up, and I thought I missed. It happens a lot in crypto, like because we're so early. Like we see something and we're early, but we think we missed the boat because someone else has been talking about it for 2 weeks before us. So I thought I missed the boat on ordinals, and then sort of there was like an up and a down, and then I decided, okay, I want to kind of get involved. That was end of 2023, and I've always been a Bitcoiner. I wrote a book about Bitcoin, like even when I was working in the, in other companies in crypto, whatever it was. Like I would never buy, the full gospel. Like they would be like, oh, we're creating this new ZK thing, like the new Bitcoin. Like I would never buy into that gospel. I would be like, okay, I'm going to show up to work. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to market your product. We'll get some partnerships. We'll do what we need to do. But I don't believe in whatever it is you're selling the way I believe in Bitcoin. And then when I saw that, okay, you can do DeFi, NFTs, RCOs, like all the fun stuff on Bitcoin. Just this, as you said, just the concept of like, how can it be that Bitcoin is such a big asset, and the apps and the all the features and all the products built on Bitcoin, they should be parallel to that. They should reach that size. So that kind of what drew me into Bitcoin in the first place. But I think, yeah.
Sorry to cut you. I'm just kind of curious. When did you write your book, like on all the topics of Bitcoin? Like how has that evolved for you? I guess like.
So my book is actually no one's ever read it cover to cover. Okay. That's my claim to fame. My book was actually it's timeless. Well, sort of timeless, because what I did was I took the white paper, and behind me you see some Jewish books, right? And the Jewish way of study, as Mati will tell you as well, is that you have a text, right, which can be the Bible or can be the Talmud or some foundational text, and then you have the commentaries. But the commentaries they're not writing their own freehand, right? They're commenting. They kind of take a sentence from the text, and then that's how they prompt their commentary. So it's kind of a running commentary on the white paper based on the textual. Like I don't explain the white paper in my own words. I explain the white paper in context of the white paper. So it takes 9 pages of the white paper, turns it into 110 pages of writing, especially in the last section where it deals with statistical models of what a hash rate war would look like between honest nodes and a potential attacker. And then over there, Satoshi's modeling, given the attacker has a different proportion of the hash power. Because of course, if the hacker has 51% of the hash power, you break Bitcoin, the 51% attack. But then Satoshi's modeling what happens if the hacker has 40% or 30%. What are the probabilities that he'll eventually catch up to the longest proof of work chain? So I kind of explained all that. And it's sort of timeless because it really explains the foundational concept of Bitcoin. But I would love to go back actually and see how it fits in with this whole, because there's a lot of debate now in Bitcoin around what the future of Bitcoin going to look like, And last year we were talking a lot about OpCat and very aggressive changes to Bitcoin's core protocol, to Bitcoin's the kind of the building blocks of Bitcoin. And this year we're seeing that even minor changes, right? There's a whole debate between Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Not over whether to allow, the limit of a certain op return number. So that's a lot less drastic of a change than OpCat would have been, and yet it's almost created sort of a civil war reminiscent of the block wars of 2017 that caused the Bitcoin Cash fork. So you're having a situation where I think all of us ordinals, and you're seeing people like Udi Wertheimer, who were talking a lot about OpCat, like he's not talking about OpCat at all anymore. So you're seeing a lot of people that are people are realizing, I think the Bitcoin in ecosystem's realizing that not so fast. Making changes to the base layer won't go down so well with all the Bitcoiners.
Yeah, I think something that I won't pretend I have enough knowledge about, but and I'm very worried, but also curious about is anything related to quantum computers, because I've heard a lot of people, whether it's finance or AI, talk about it, and it's a bit like what do you say in English? Like the Graal, like nobody knows how it's going to be, but everyone's saying, yeah, after 2030, we're going to be able to crack any password and the security features, even of Bitcoin and cryptography. And I would love to hear like a real expert in a non-biased way be able to say, okay, this is potentially true. This is absolute, sorry for the swearing, bullshit. Because right now it's like, it feels like we have this sword hanging over our heads that we don't really realize yet because we're focused more on the present. But in 8-10 years, who knows where it's going to be. So that would be an interesting one.
Yeah, it's a lot sooner than that. It's a lot sooner than anybody thinks. Just this morning, I read 2 articles that are complete and separate independent breakthroughs. I retweeted one of them just now. I'm going to retweet the other one in just a bit, but actually, Princeton just found a way to improve Google's Willow chip by 1,000 times. These things are moving a lot quicker than anybody would expect, and a lot quicker than anybody even realizes. We had a Twitter space with Jameson Lopp last week, who was talking about kind of just burning Satoshi's Bitcoin so that no quantum hacker ever gets a hold of them. It will certainly happen in phases, the quantum threat. It's not like, okay, one day we're going to wake up and everything is completely unsteady. But as Andreas Antonopoulos said, Satoshi's keys might be the first to move, but probably not even Satoshi's keys. He had very good hygiene, but early Bitcoiners who maybe signed public transactions and haven't moved their coins off, I mean, they're going to be easy targets to begin with. I do believe that the industry will update itself and upgrade with the technology, especially Bitcoin, because as soon as those first attacks happen, that'll kind of provide the motivation for everybody to get their shit together and get their butts in gear and fix everything that needs to be fixed. But it really is going to depend on the specific wallet that you're using, and how good your hygiene is, your key management skills and whatnot. Yeah. And then I think that there's going to be several blockchains that are not going to be able to keep up with the quantum threat, and they're not thinking about it enough right now, and they're not going to, and they're going to get completely eviscerated by quantum computers when the time comes. So if you're holding on to any bags right now and the chief technology officer is not talking about the quantum threat and not preparing for it, it might be time to kind of just dump those bags at the moment, because it's not, it really is a real threat, and it's coming very soon.
Yeah, for me, I understand I love quantum physics. Like, it's a spooky action at a distance. Like, I think as a man of faith, like, there's nothing quite like quantum physics to kind of confirm my biases, because the classical physics kind of the paradigm thought they had it all figured out, and there was really no room for like chance or randomness or sort of divine orchestration. It was all very much the universe exists, and if you know the different objects and the motion of the objects, you can predict exactly what's going to happen in the future. And quantum just turned that all on its head with probabilistic thinking, with the idea that like you need to observe something in order to fix its position, the role of consciousness. So I love quantum computing. Like, I'm not obviously an expert in that, but I think for me what resonates the most is what Mati said at the end. Like, quantum technology is not just the hackers aren't going to be the only ones with quantum. Like, also the Bitcoin core developers will also have quantum. But the same thing is, what this reminds me of? It reminds me of back in the day, there was a lot of you know, right now, I don't think, besides for Casper, which is like some, you know, cult shitty coin that people have to show in our chat, I haven't heard of one new proof of work blockchain in a long time, because proof of work was so easily hackable if you didn't have enough, you know, security budget. Like back in the day, there was like a website that there still is, like it shows you how much you need in order to orchestrate a 51% attack on Dash, on all these different Bitcoin forks, Bitcoin Diamond, and whatever.
Not only
And
did it show you how much you need, it showed you where to rent that.
where
hash
to
power.
buy it, yeah. It's giving you the target and the gun and telling you to press the trigger. And that's the same thing here. Bitcoin would never be under a 51% attack. But all it means is that it becomes a lot easier for the hackers who are trying to hack Bitcoin to actually destroy other chains, like Mati said. So, if anything, Quantum Threat should make you more bullish on Bitcoin, because you damn well know that Bitcoin developers will come up with some sort of quantum resistant, you know, encryption that can make Bitcoin safe. But your, you know, third rate EVM L2 is sitting in some garbage. There's no guarantee that they're thinking past their Yap campaign or their memes. So that's kind of,
That's the safest route, as you said. I think it's if Bitcoin gets quote unquote hacked because of quantum computers, then you can expect the rest of the whole space to go down. You know, like it's not going to be just Bitcoin goes down and the others don't go down. You know, there's more likelihood of Bitcoin resisting and the others going down.
Yeah, GM everyone. Thanks for the GM.
GM for everyone. So let's get back to Beyond. I think we have, you know, a ton to cover. This is Bitcoin. It's all made of tangents. You just need to navigate them with style. But let's talk a little bit. I don't want to get too deep in the details, but just a little bit about, you know, how the technology works from a user standpoint. Like, what are we going to expect on day one? Because if we open the Beyond, you know, if we open the Beyond website, there's a lot of fun teasers over there. There's a lot of, you know, widgets and cool things to test out. All obviously in like a promo mode, in coming soon mode. So what can we expect from a user standpoint from Beyond, you know, around the launch?
Yeah, when we go mainnet, we're gonna go live with 10 chains. I don't know if we've announced them all yet, but things such as like Polygon, Arbitrum, Base, etc., like the major chains. And then on a weekly basis, we're going to be adding new chains. And it's very simple to add these chains. It's just that when we're launching, we don't really see the benefit of just suddenly adding 100+ chains, because number one, I'm not 100% sure the community would care that you have like 80+ chains or 90 chains. It's better to just keep the momentum going with, you know how the space is, unfortunately, or fortunately, who knows. You need to keep that momentum going. And also, like, even though it's quote unquote easy to add them, there's still work to do to add these chains, even when everything is all set. So it's just going to be weekly basis, like boom, mainnet. And then every week there's just going to be that news. One thing that I do want to highlight is, you know, we mentioned this at the beginning of the space, is that we're being very careful not to overhype things. It's very easy in the space to, you know, just try to sell the moon. We could do that, and sometimes we're doing it a little bit, because we do believe that we're, you know, bring value to not just the Bitcoin ecosystem space, but just crypto in general. But at the end of the day, you know, our goal is first to have a working product that people are happy to use, that's make it a successful bridge. And just, if you look at, that's what I always say, just look at the top 50 bridges. Like, obviously our goal is not to be a top 50 or top 70 or 80 bridge, but if you just look at the valuations and you compare that to projects in the Bitcoin ecosystem, you'll see that even if we end up being at top 30 or top 40 bridge, which is not the goal, but even if it was the case, that would still be a very good valuation compared to what the ecosystem, the Bitcoin ecosystem, is doing right now. So we really just want to start with these building blocks. Mainnet, you have these key chains, and we'll keep adding them, gathering user feedback. You know, I think one of the things that we're most focused on is really product kind of market fit. And I think that that's something that in the space we've all kind of forgotten because, except for, those that love Bitcoin and are maxis. But if you play with altcoins, it's just like every month there's a new project that disappears. And so our goal is really just to build continuously and for people to be, you know what, maybe I sold my bags of Beyond. Maybe I shouldn't have. What they're doing is actually pretty cool. Maybe I'm going to recommend it to someone that, has their Bitcoin on another chain and wants to go to EVM. So that's really what you can expect, is just like a good product with a solid user experience at the end of the day. And finally, less fragmentation for Bitcoin. Finally, you can start moving your Bitcoin around a little bit. And that's at a non-hype level what we're trying to accomplish.
Thanks for that. Mati, there's something that's very cool about Beyond that Mati's reviewing your website as well. I reviewed it a bit earlier. But there's something very cool about Beyond that I think you'll like, and that is, let's talk a bit about where they are in their timeline. They have a campaign live on WallChain. There's a mainnet coming soon, a TGE coming soon, and the team has zero. How many? I'll give you the guess. Hopefully, I'm ruin it. What percentage of the token supply is going to the team? You want to have a guess, Mati?
I think you just Freudian slipped it. You said 0, didn't you?
I did say 0, so I was hoping I stopped quite before
You're just
that.
checking if I'm paying attention, huh? There you go.
But 0% of the token supply. Tell us a little bit about the thinking behind doing that move, because that's really not something common in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thinking is, I guess, twofold. Is that usually teams vest their tokens for 6 months to a year, maybe 2 years. If it's less than 3 months, usually run away, guys. But in our case, it's either we do it this way or we just bet on the product doing well. And when I say well, there's different variations, as I said, right? Being a top 10, top 20, top 50 bridge. But at the end of the day, we don't necessarily need to be incentivized by tokens. We want users to feel comfortable that, they can get in at a really good valuation and that they can just join the journey with us as we grow. So that was kind of the general way of thinking. At the same time, of course, there are operational costs for Beyond, between the team members. And so that is why we are going to have, the Launchpad and the Ordinal set, because that's going to cover marketing, but also operational costs, which is kind of different from purely tokens. So I gotta be transparent of that. I think anyone watching would understand that when you have a team of members, the money has to come from somewhere. So that's one of the reasons.
No. The money has to come from somewhere. Look, there's a few things about token sales that come to mind. Now, the first thing is there's something about a token sale that is a sort of finality. Once you TGE, it's very hard to raise more money unless you have a very good holding company and you can sell equity in that holding company, or unless you do another token. But typically, we see that a lot of projects, TGE is the last fundraise. It's sort of people like to compare it to an IPO, but it's not an IPO, because by the time a company gets to IPO in the traditional market, if they're not profitable, at least they have enough run rate to get them to profitability. Whereas in crypto, that's always been the challenge. It's people rush to TGE quite early. Obviously you have to raise money. Obviously you guys need to eat. You need to, pay for AWS or whatever. But the challenge is always you raise too early and then you're left with not enough run rate to get you 5, 10, whatever years, until you get to profitability. I think that's changed a little bit this year with projects like Hyperliquid, Pump Fund, showing that you can, a crypto project can get, to revenue positive, ROI positive. It's a thing. You don't have to just dump token, and that's what I like about your model, because the typical crypto model is to double dip. We'll raise money, we'll do a public sale, we'll get money, and then we'll also keep the team token. So we double dipping. We're making here. And you guys are saying no, we want to keep ourselves aligned, we want to keep ourselves incentivized. So kudos for that.
I think, I guess, to add to this, and this is not to throw shade at the rest of the crypto projects out there, because obviously some very smart people, but I think we have a bad way of thinking since 2021 when we were just printing money daily, buying random stuff, right? And so projects and teams got so used to making a lot of money through their treasury because let's say you have a token that goes to 800 million market cap, boom, you sell half your supply, you put that in stable coins, and you got treasury for 2, 3, 4 years of operations, right? But now I think the way we're trying to think about it is like the product and what the return you're getting out of your product should cover your operations. It should not be the role of a token to cover operation costs. Obviously it's easier said than done, let's be honest, but ideally that's what we feel you should strive for. And in the cases where there's a hard month for XY reason, then you can have tokens that can cover or a sell or a launch pad. But the goal is really for the product to run by itself and to generate that revenue. So we are not dependent on a token. But of course, you never know in the future what can happen. So we'll see.
Yeah, Matty, what do you think of what do you think of this that kind of taking 0% of the token supply for the team?
It's exactly what we did at QE Coin. Exactly the same. We did a fair launch, and a lot of the team members bought in early, and have been continuously buying since then, because they understand the value and where we're going with it. So I think it's absolutely correct. And another game changer that we haven't discussed today, but I think is critical, are creator fees, which basically these days when you launch a coin on one of these platforms like Farcaster or Pump Fund, you're basically rewarded for the volumes directly. And this is, in my opinion, a game changer for projects, because now if you're getting volumes and you're seeing people speculating and trading on your coin, you don't actually have to dump on your users and on your holders in order to extract value. So just that speculation itself happens to derive some sort of a revenue for the project. So in my opinion, that's basically something new that's happened in the space. It's very exciting in my opinion. Even KOLs have been using it now, and obviously KOL coins or influencer coins, what have you, they're notorious for being kind of scams or pump and dumps. But nowadays, even still, they don't have to dump on their audience in order to derive that value and extract that value, but rather they just launch a coin, and off of the trading volumes alone, they get those creator fees where they're incentivized enough to where they don't have to, start releasing coins into the audience, onto their audience. I want to ask about the Beyond though, because I'm looking at it. I don't understand. Is this like what is the functionality here? So you said layer 0. Okay, just all of these pretty words. Is this basically like a decentralized shapeshift? Like, is this just like a bridge where we just swap one coin for another in a decentralized way? Is that what we're doing here?
So I guess at a high level, the easiest way to explain it, even though it's not going to be that easy, which is why we'll have articles about it, but it's anyone in the audience, I'll explain it right now, but you can also type lock and mint layer 0 on Google, and this would give you...
What I'm trying to get a sense of is just like, how am I supposed to use this?
Yeah, exactly. So I'll give you an example. You have like a ORDI, which is our BRC20 token. We could take this example with Dog also, but you have your ORDI on Bitcoin and you want to move it to Solana through Beyond, right? So you hold your ORDI on Bitcoin L1 and you're...
Why would I want to do that?
Yeah, no, that's like actually a great question that you raised. So there has to be a reason why you want to bridge, right? We're not here telling you, yeah, just because you can bridge something, you should do it, right? So right now we're in the process of like essentially creating all these incentives with DeFi protocols and Ruins projects. And we're doing a lot of back and forth to see, or even stablecoin projects, what are the incentives that you can give these projects versus the volume they can bring. And so I'm not going to be here telling you there's going to be 30,000 use cases, because that's not true. But already if we can create these 50, 100 strong or interesting use cases, then going back to your point, okay, I'm going to bridge because I can get 20% yield or 15% yield or maybe even more. So going back to that point, that's why you would potentially want to move ORDI to Solana or another Rune token. And essentially, at a very simple level, simple. We're using essentially the messaging layer of layer 0, so lock and mint. So you have your ordi, you essentially bridge it to Solana, and you tell that to Beyond. And so essentially Beyond is using this messaging layer, and what's going to happen on the Solana side is that it's going to receive a contract with the verified message. So essentially, you're locking your ordi tokens safely on Solana when you're bridging. They aren't destroyed, they're frozen in kind of a vault-like contract. So this prevents double use. And so the messaging layer of layer 0 or Beyond essentially says user X locked 100 ordi on Bitcoin. Please mint 100 wrapped ordi on Solana. And on the Solana side, Beyond Solana contract receives the verified message, and it's going to mint these 100 wrapped ordis. So let's call them W ordi. That represents essentially the tokens you have. And if you wanted to go back to Bitcoin, it would do the same thing the other way around. You would send your 100 W ordi tokens to Beyond Solana Bridge contract, and that contract would burn your W ordi so the supply stays consistent. So it's not really about swaps, going back to what you asked. It's really about, just preventing these double usage. And the best way really to have a TLDR is just type lock and mint layer 0 on Google. They have many articles, but that's also something going to mainnet that we're going to be working on. Is we just released an article called Bitcoin Strategies, and we're going to have a lot of mini episodes and articles because we want to educate the community about what you can do with your Bitcoin, opportunities, and how it's going to work. Because as you very well pointed out, sometimes you don't need to bridge. And we're not going to be here telling you that you should bridge just for the sake of bridging. So we're going to be showcasing, that's also the exciting part, a lot of partners where you can have these opportunities, and then it's up to us to educate the users so they see the security and so they feel safe doing that at the end of the day at a high level. But we'll have, don't worry, a lot of technical articles I know in the pipe. Our CTO is working on them. So for anyone that wants to get into the nitty gritty and get to the hardcore of it, you'll be able, like Dudu did with the white paper. We'll have that coming pretty soon.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question to answer. Like, the nitty gritty is important, but it's not as important as why bridge? Like, are you bridging? Like, back in the days, I remember, once people realized, and this is where we talk about what went wrong with ordinals and runes, because there was a mad pump around that halving 18 months ago, a little bit more than 18 months ago, and then it just kind of disappeared. And a lot of that is to do with the limitations of Bitcoin. And eventually, I know Leonidas made a bridge to Solana, and a lot of people tried different things. Obviously, people realizing that Bitcoin 10 minutes on block times are not the way you want to trade meme coins. You're not the way you want to trade culture. So I think that one use case that I would see, but I'm not so sure that it's so attractive right now because not many people are trading ordinals and runes. But another potential use case is to kind of just get Bitcoin moving in DeFi, to kind of wrap and bridge Bitcoin across different chains, wrap and bridge different Bitcoin LSTs like LBTC or SolBTC or any of those across different chains. So I think it's a nice place to kind of compete in, because there are a lot of LSTs, there are a lot of Bitcoin wrappers, there are a lot of, and there's not, the interoperability layer is kind of missing for me, and I don't use layer 0, I use Stargate, which uses layer 0 on the back end, obviously to swap. Now I do it native in my OKX wallet, and I think that's really the future, where Beyond will kind of be a native back end to allowing people to natively swap BTC for anything else within their wallet, within in their apps, in the exchange, wherever they can on chain. So definitely exciting times ahead. We're kind of getting to the end of the show. I want to kind of talk plans, the timeline looking like for you guys. You're coming into crunch time, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have still our ongoing Wallchain campaign. InfoFi, we felt that the Bitcoin ecosystem maybe is underutilizing this aspect of InfoFi, and so far we're very happy of how it's going. So essentially, the timeline is the following. I don't know how much I can reveal, but we're gonna have a launch pad, and we're gonna have right after that, less than a week after, the ordinal sale. So these two are gonna be very close to one another, and essentially I don't know how much I can say, but they're happening in the first part of December. Let's just keep it at that. And basically, shortly after, about, I would say, 3 weeks, to play it safe, I'll say a month, but it's probably less than a month, to be honest. We're gonna have the mainnet. So initially, mainnet was planned for around Christmas time, but then we realized that might be a mistake, obviously, between Christmas and New Year's. So we actually are going to do mainnet around the first week of January. That way, we're still, as we said, not exactly end of Q4, but hopefully the community will forgive us for being extremely close to the first week of January to start a new year well. And the TG will be essentially less than a month after the mainnet. So steps going back: Launchpad, ordinal sale, mainnet, and TG. And as you mentioned earlier, nothing stops with the mainnet. After mainnet, we keep adding chains. Nothing stops with the TGE. In fact, it's the beginning, and that's also one of the key things I want to emphasize is that, as you mentioned earlier, the team's taking 0%, and we're really trying to build something over time here. It's kind of playing the long game. So even the valuation will reflect this, and hopefully the community, and obviously this is non-financial advice, because at the end of the day, if you can make money and it changes your life, you should do it. But hopefully people will just go on DeFi Llama or other websites and just look at top 50 bridges and look at the valuations. And so either you'll see that we are crazy for our low valuation, or maybe it's the other way around. These projects are crazy for having such high valuations, right? So that's really our goal, is just to build a product that people are excited about in the Bitcoin ecosystem space, bring a bit more fun in this space too, because a bridge, let's be honest, can be boring. It's not very sexy. However, you can build sexy use cases. You can build fun stuff about it. And, going back to your point, this is why we got into ordinals also, because it was fun. There was culture. This is why we got into runes. Like when you buy Pups or Billy or Dog, it's because you believe in something. And so there should be these use cases on other chains. And I won't reveal too much, but there's a lot of DeFi protocols out there on the EVM side. It's not that they don't care about the Bitcoin ecosystem. They just don't know exactly what's there. And so we're actually getting questions of what are launch pads that work? What are tokens that have good volume that you would recommend? So there is this interest, and I think it's up to us. And when I say us, it's not just Beyond, it's the whole Bitcoin ecosystem and people building to try to showcase that there's Bitcoin in the asset that we all love and we obviously want to hold. But there's also ways to showcase to the EVM side that there's a lot being built on the Bitcoin ecosystem side, and that both sides can benefit. So this is where it becomes a bit controversial from a maxi perspective of, if you love Bitcoin, you don't want to go outside of it too much. But our way of thinking, and this is more a debate, is you need to be open to others, because Bitcoin has won the race, whatever you want to call it. But the Bitcoin ecosystem, let's be honest, is very far behind. And I'll just say this, I was in Hong Kong for Bitcoin Asia. And first of all, props to, Xverse and Yan for doing, the Bitcoin ecosystem event, because it was really great. That being said, there was still a huge room for institutional Bitcoin, the meta planets and all, where they were talking daily about Bitcoin institutional level. And you could see the difference. It was just two different vibes. And so hopefully in the coming years, we can bridge these two together, no pun intended on the word bridge. And you can have the Bitcoin ecosystem that's also in the quote unquote big boy room, or whatever you want to call it, right? So that's kind of I hope that's where we go with, Bitcoin as a whole, the ecosystem. When you look at projects like Liquidium doing lending, when you see projects, like Mezzo and others doing stable coins, that we can grow. Even Odin Fund, even though I know it can be a bit controversial with ICP, I personally really like what they've been doing, bullish on them. And it just shows we're just at the beginning of things, and now it's just up to us to keep building. And so this bridge, I think, is one of the first steps with Beyond to enable that. And hopefully the community, users, and even Maxis, everyone sees it that way.
Yeah, Maxi's welcome here. Yeah,
Matty, you're welcome.
oh no, Mati doesn't like the Maxi so much though. We've had a few of them on the
Okay.
show, and he always get that. It always ends up in a little tussle. But yeah, that serves them right because they.
You say tussle, I say KO.
I think for me the Maxi side is always like people are like Bitcoin's supposed to be like non-sovereign and this freedom money, and yet you're telling people how they can and can't use their Bitcoin. Like I'm okay with people who believe that like ordinals is a scam. That's a legit opinion to have, but if to try and when you try and impose those opinions on others, not just like verbally but also on chain, like with the knots versus core debate, like when you try and impose what is an accepted Bitcoin transaction, that's when I have a problem, because now you're not just everyone has their own opinion. Like I've learned long ago to kind of live and let live and to accept and embrace difference of opinion. But there's a difference between having opinions that are counter to what people the orthodoxy and having those opinions censored and enforced, and that's where I think we should speak up against the Maxis.
Yeah.
So like we have TGE coming up, mainnet. What do you kind of recommend as a starting point, as a path for someone watching this that hasn't gotten involved yet in Beyond? Like obviously there's 2 more weeks left of your first epoch on Wallchain. Epoch 1 implies that there's going to be an Epoch 2. So what would you recommend, in terms of materials, reading materials, people to follow, things to do for someone that wants to position themselves for BYD?
Yeah, absolutely. So positioning yourself for BYD, as you mentioned, I think participating in the Wallchain campaign is kind of a no-brainer. And for those that might just have arrived and think, oh, it's too late, it's not, because even if you don't make it in the top 100, 125 or so, you could make it in the top 500. And just that could make you eligible to potentially, getting a BYD. And that's totally possible to be in the top 500. And so I think obviously, following Beyond, following the articles, getting into the nitty and gritty is one way to understand, because we don't want just people like mindlessly shilling Beyond without understanding the core concepts, because I think you need to understand what you're shilling at a very basic level, why it's interesting or why there are things that disturb you. And that way we can also improve, because there's lots of things to play around with. And of course, something we might have not mentioned yet is that when we have the mainnet, we will have a leaderboard, because at the end of the day, we have 0% tokenomics for the team, but we have a large majority for the community, and not just people necessarily farming, but actual users of the bridge. Because at the end of the day, you want the users of the bridge to be rewarded. So one way, participate in the Wallchain, and number 2, when there's mainnet, start playing with Beyond, try using the bridge, and just giving us feedback, because that's how we'll have a better product at the end of the day. And word to mouth, of course, matters a lot. So thank you guys, for having us on. Next time I'll try to bring our CTO or Nate on, so we can get into a bit more the nitty and gritty. And we have a lot of articles soon. And I guess a last shout out to all the DeFi protocols and everyone building in the BTC space. And if there's an Ordinal project that doesn't have the whitelist yet for the Ordinal collection, you can reach out to Awes on Twitter. He's leading our collabs. That's something just to finish on, I didn't touch too much on, is the name of the collection will be Echo Ports, for maybe old fans of Stargates. Think of, okay, maybe this might be an old take. Maybe you don't know what Stargate is, but think of like Bitcoin as your home, and you can go explore other worlds. That's kind of the idea of the bridge of
How could somebody not know what Stargate is? Come on.
All right, well, hopefully everyone knows what it is. So, right, Bitcoin is home, your safe home, but you want to explore new exciting worlds. Some are scary, some have opportunities. That's kind of the point of a bridge. And so we're playing with this idea of Echo Ports, which is the name of the collection. And it's not just another Ordinal collection. It's not just art, because utility is twofold. You all have a multiplier on the leaderboard. So if you're planning to farm the token / use the bridge and be a user, then having the Ordinal is a great way to get more points. And second of all, having the ordinal will make you eligible. And by eligible, I mean you will have these tokens at TG. So it's a twofold thing. If you actually
So the ordinal sale is when you say whitelist, you mean certain existing ordinals collection will have whitelist for the EcoPort sale.
exactly. And so right now we are doing the collabs with the ordinal projects, which
I have a crypto dick butt on Bitcoin. Does that make me eligible?
I think I have to
I'm joking.
no, I have
I'm
to pull up
joking.
the
I don't
list,
have crypto dick butts. I'm a puppet and I know
I
it.
actually think when you said that, I don't know why it rang a bell. I was like, I think I read that somewhere. It might be eligible, but either way, reach out to us if you want your community to be eligible. And at the end of the day, hopefully people will see the valuations and will think, it's an interesting bet. But really, we just hope that people use the bridge and give feedback. And if there's things that don't make sense, like as Matty said, maybe there are things where the community will be, why aren't you guys doing this? Or I want a better use case on XYZ or on my yield or then we will make it happen. So it's just back and forth building. We don't want to overhype, but I think we got something really exciting cooking.
Epic. Jordan, thank you so much for coming today. Always a pleasure to chat with you, and I'm glad we got some alone time in front of the screen. And good luck for the upcoming sprint. Like we have, December's a big month for you guys. Obviously getting ready, and very good decision to not launch during Christmas and New Year's. Like, market's going to be quite dead by then. But I think it's a good time to build hype. I think January is going to start. I think the momentum is going to pick up in 2026. We're going to hopefully see a rate cut in December. Hopefully we start to see more, chatter around who's replacing Jerome Powell in the White House, in the Federal Reserve, right? So these kind of catalysts could spur the risk on. So set up you get your ducks in a row now. Community is building. The leaderboard is insanely hard to climb up, which is a good sign for the project. And once that is ready, then we have Epoch 1, mainnet, we have the ordinal sale, launchpad sale, mainnet going live, TGE. That's all happening in the next couple of months. And we'll stay in touch. We'll definitely be here to follow along with Beyond Team. So thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Matti. Anything you want to say before we check out?
I mean, just once again, thank you so much for having us on. Thank you, anyone in the in the audience, and if you're rewatching this, like if you have any questions, whether it's technical on the ordinal, on the launchpad, or please reach out. Same thing if you're a project or ordinal. We just want to build with people. We just want to make it fun again, and hopefully we get there and people realize what we're building.
Awesome, Jordan, Matti, thank you guys, and thank you everyone for watching. We had a lot of people, real people, not bot, joining in the comments today, right? So thank you guys.
A lot of real people, a lot of bots. Thanks everybody.
Thank you so much, guys, for having us. Take care.